I made it. Sorry so late, folks. What are you going to do? All right. Let's see. What are we talking about here? Ben's here. Eston Roy, Todd, Ben, Tom, Mark. What are you guys doing? What's happening? Let's see. Joe says he wishes he could live in Seattle. I love Seattle. It's a great town. I slightly prefer Vancouver. I mean, if I lived in each for a while, I'm sure I would discover different things. But I don't know. I just love Vancouver. That's my preference. Such a gorgeous city. Seattle's a great place too, though. I like the Pacific Northwest. I like Portland a lot too. Love it. Oregon's beautiful. Good vibes. All right. How are things going with Vi Satriani World? Really good. Everything's great. Those fellas are, they're both doing different things for the next sort of 2 months. Joe's got a residency, of course, with Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony, and at the and Kenny, of course, at the where the heck is it in Vegas? MGM, I think. And I think I'm gonna go out and catch a show actually. So that's fun. And Steve's headed for some dates with Beat to South America, so that's great. If anybody gets a chance to see, well, either of those shows, you should do it. I saw Beat. I still haven't seen Joe with Sammy, but I saw Beat a while ago at a theater here in LA, and it was fantastic, man. It was such a great show, I thought. Really good. Really good. Really good. Really good. What are you guys talking about here? Oh, you live in Eugene, says William. That's cool. Eugene's really nice. I used to kind of get up that way a lot. I would drive from LA to, my parents for a while lived on Vancouver Island. So I like for a brief period of time, a few years, they were out there. And this is in the early 90s. So I would drive up there as a young man and go visit them and stuff. It was always really enjoyable, going through Eugene and Portland. And Steven says, is it me or is the picture extra clear? I got a new computer a little while ago, and I have a new monitor, and it's really nice. I'm not using it's a different camera and everything, and it's just better. I had an old Logitech that was okay, because I was using a 2000, late 2015 iMac forever, which when it was new, it was great, but they've come a long way since then, obviously. So this is a brand new Mac Studio monitor, and it just, they got to figure it out. It's better. Yeah. And to be honest, I'm just using, you tell me how it sounds, but I'm using the studio mic display, like the display in microphone, in other words, that's in the, because I feel like they're great these days. So the mics in iPhones and the mics in the newish Apple stuff is all really super solid. So yeah. What's been the most challenging aspect with my new gig? Well, just, I'm not going to go in and phone it in. It's got to be great. Like I've always said it's, you want to be a problem solved, right? Because you want to be just, on your game, and there's stress involved with putting a new band together, especially if you don't know the new members that well. They were going a little bit on faith with me, I guess, and just hoping that I would come in and know my stuff and be prepared, and nice people and all that. You want to make sure that, so I worked really, really, really hard on everything to make sure that I was as prepared as I could be going in. And I guess that's the hardest part, just putting in the time and the work and the effort. They were so nice to me, those guys. And I was, I'd still say strangely so comfortable. I felt really, really comfortable with them and playing guitar with them in front of them and everything. And I was a little worried about that because they're like heroes of mine, and it's like to be like, so how are you playing that part? When one of those guys says that to you and then you go into it, well, how are you going to respond? and I was great, you know, honestly. I mean, I'm not like tooting my own horn. I was so comfortable. I don't mean I played great or I am great. I mean, I was cool. I was chill, you know, and I put in the time and the work. And so that's that. And I don't have a problem like tooting my own horn when it comes to that. Like I did work really hard. And when you work really hard and you're prepared, it pays off, you know, and that's maybe just what I mean. I was comfortable, you know. I was and so that felt really good, even with difficult stuff. And the thing about those fellas is they know which of their songs are, you know, are challenging. And so they'll look at you with a okay, let's see what you got, like kind of thing. And then you go into it and you're like, I know. It's I told them at one point, I said, both of you guys are taking me to school right now. They were both laughing, looking at me, laughing at me, you know. I said, you guys are, you know, there's certain things, you know. I'll give you an example. I mean, you know, it's not a secret, but if you were to play, let's say, can you hear that? I'm not sure if you can hear it, but this is the chord in Always With Me, Always With You that starts the song. I'm not going to mute it because then maybe you'll hear it better. You know, you go into that, look at the spread on that, you know, it's a crazy chord, you know what I mean? And you got to be ready to, you know. Now, when you get into the kind of the B section, it's a B with a B minor with a 9, you know, so you got to, that's the chord. Sorry. Don't play it like that. I got to put the guitar down to do it. Right? Like that. That's a big ass chord, right? And so that was the one where Joe was like, oh, yeah, that chord sucks, right? Like he said to me when we were playing it one time. I was like, yeah, it's gnarly no matter what. I mean, I have average hands. I wouldn't say they're small or big. So when you're getting into, you know, that's there's challenges like that. And I had to work really, you know, to be able to go into that stuff and play it and be smooth, you know, it takes a minute. So, does that make sense? So I don't know if you can hear it or not when I'm doing that, but looks like that would be hard to play standing up. Well, it's, you know, you just got to put the guitar on the strap and then, you know, that's all you got to do, you know? So it's really like a, somebody said, is that an E? You know, the first chord is a B. So you're playing with the sus, right? So it's root. It's a B on the low E string that you play with your second finger, and then you're playing root, third, 4 up there on the B string. So, and you're skipping the A string, right? Right. So that's the first chord there. So, you know, I learned that months ago. Like when this first came up, I was like, I'm going to start tackling some of this stuff. And that was one of the ones that I was like, I'm probably going to have to play that part, and I probably better get on that because I knew that it was big stretches. So let's go, you know? So, yeah. Anyways, so happy for you getting the gig. Thanks. When will you be touring with them in the States? Well, that's all, you know, there's nothing. I'm not going to say that wouldn't happen, but I have no information about anything like that. So, you know, there's possibilities of these things. So we'll wait and see, you know. I'd love to do the whole world with those guys if I could, you know. So we'll see what happens, you know. But for now, we've got these Europe dates, and that's going to be a blast. So Christopher says that Joe's hands aren't that big either. Yeah, and Vi's hands are really big. He's got, you know, the fingers made for playing guitar for sure. And that's it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, I would say Joe's more like, you know, he's got mortal hands like I do, you know, like probably most of you guys. And Steve's I've got friends like that too. My buddy Yogi that did the Chris Cornell gig with me for years. He's got those fingers that are like, if you put, you know, his hand looks like that on mine, his fingers are like that much longer than mine. If I, you know, if they were the same, you know what I mean? So yeah. So, oh, you meant the other chord. So the other chord Tom, is a B minor with the 9. So you're playing root, 5th, 9, right? And then the 3rd on top. Right? Yeah, sure. So sorry, the guitar's a little out of tune. I'm not going to mute it. You have to mute it to play it properly, of course. But then you won't hear it. So like that. Yeah, it's a stretch. That's not anywhere near the hardest thing that I had to learn either. There's other stuff that's pretty crazy. So really, really great stuff, though. I mean, it's like it's really taken me to school and been a super opening my ears too, in a way, not just technically, but like harmonically. You know, I've learned some stuff that's like, oh, it's so interesting how it becomes very sort of almost hooky sounding, and at first it was like really abstract sounding, you know. So it's cool. Yeah. What else we got here? Oh, my favorite Sir headstock, says Steven. Yeah, that guitar has the hybrid headstock on it. I started playing this guitar this week because I realized I was recording some stuff. It's a great guitar. I haven't played in it a little while, and it's got really fresh strings on it. So I was like, oh, let's bust this one out and play a few things on it. And so I used it in the latest video that I'm working on right now, but it is really cool. This also has one of the coolest Sir relic jobs on it that I've ever seen. You know, I was really adamant about like, don't sand where it looks like a belt sander hit the, you know, that kind of look, you know. And I'm not sure her name who did the aging on this, but she works for them and she did a really beautiful job on it. I feel like it's really tasteful and cool. And then it's also got a couple tours on it, so it's got a little bit of real lived in aging on it. For a while I had a different pickup in the bridge, and then I had a Thornbucker 2 put in the bridge of that. I believe it's a 2 and not a 4. I'm not 100% sure of that, actually. I'll have to open it up and look. My memory fails me. But anyways. What else you guys talking about? Let's see. Why don't you play that B minor 9 at the 7th fret? Because then I'd have to shoot all the way down the neck. For the next 2 chords, and it seems like a lot of tennis match to me, and I can play it in the first position. If I'm in the first position, I can play it and then just jump down to the E because I'm right there already. I sort of believe in minimal motion. When Joe said that chord's a bitch, he didn't say, why don't you do it up at the 7th fret either? Like, that's how I do it. I'm not sure. You know, it's a good question. I should ask him, does that mean this is the way you recorded it? But it sounded right to me in the second position too. And so I'm pretty sure that's the way he did it. But yeah, so yeah, really makes you appreciate Dave Weiner as a musician. Yeah, he played with Steve forever. Have you needed to consult with him? But no, I just you know, learned everything kind of by ear and by but there's some good transcriptions online actually of these songs that I needed to learn. I don't want to talk about all the songs that I've learned because it's like then it sort of spoils what we're doing. So but you know, suffice it to say, yeah, there's some great transcriptions, and you know, you do your internet research and go and find the way that people plays. And of course, there's videos of gigs of past, you know, so you go consult those. Go, I see how they're doing it in 7th position or in whatever position, whatever. So, yeah, yeah. Have you messed with unbalancing the bias of your power tubes left, right, in any of your super leads? No, not really. I mean, they end up that way anyway over time, you know. Always, but yeah, no, I haven't done that. Generally speaking, I'm using balanced, you know, pairs or quads, and just with the goal of them being really reliable. Yeah, Ben Tom says I love those close interval chords. Yeah, I do too. Steve's really into that too. Like he's really into actually, like borderline full on dissonant, like, you know, a half step off kind of, you know, minor 9 kind of chords, and just letting that stuff ring even with distortion. And it's a, you know, that's one of the things where when you hear it, you're like, wow, at first, and then like you start getting really into it after a while. You're like, I love this because the way if you place those chords right in a composition, that dissonance and that kind of rub, and then it resolves in the next chord and stuff is really always really beautiful. But you just got to get your head around it, and not be afraid of it. Yeah. So let's see here. Super chat from Arthur. Your new model is exactly what I've been creating myself with an old Gibson, 2 Fender style singles with a 90 in the bridge. How crazy awesome is that setup? It's really good. Thanks for the kitty funds. I appreciate that. Yeah, I bought all that cat food this week. Our one cat's on a prescription diet at the moment, and it's like, oh yeah, it's 2 whatever a can instead of 179. Buy 30 cans and it adds up, for God's sakes. In this economy. No comment. Yeah, it is a great setup. 2 singles and or 2 Strat singles and a P90. I love the setup. My guitar is actually we've changed for the production ones. I learned something through doing the red and the white prototypes of my new P90 model with the roasted necks and the bird's eye maple, is that I find it difficult to see the markers. So I'm actually having both my guitars modified with the loom inlay. If you don't know what that is, it's a actual like illuminated inlay that it's super glow in the dark material. You can get it with just the glow in the dark dot that looks like a cream dot when it's not, in just normal light, and then when it gets dark, it lights up. Or you can get it with a black surround, and that's the one I'm doing. Black surround, good size loom inlay, because I can't see for shit. So that's going to be actually a feature on the model, is if you were to order one, it'll have the loom inlays in that. But anyway, my red one is out at SIR right now getting the loom inlay put in, because we started with black dots and that just wasn't enough for me. I realized on the Classic Rock Show tour that it was like, wow, this is really difficult to see in dark light. So we're making that change, but that's the purpose of road testing a guitar. I think, you learn things. But so, yeah, that'll be great to have. But the P90 in the bridge combined with the Strat single is really great. I love the combination of the two. It's, a little bit different sound, maybe a little warmer than a Strat position too, but still got the quack and the thing that you want out of it. And then you hit the bridge pickup and it's just better than a Strat single, I think. P90 is just a great sound. So I love it. You're very inspirational to me. Your video where you use your Digitech Freakout pedal prompted me to order one. Cool. I was telling some folks about that this week, actually. Gilby Clark and Billy Morrison. I was explaining that pedal because the trend, of course, is towards itch on my shoulder. What the heck? God, get that. The studio back scratcher. What was I talking about? ADHD. Oh yeah, the Freakout, of course. Yeah, it's such a boon if you can't have any stage volume or maybe just a little stage volume. You need feedback. That pedal's such a great thing to have. So it's a really good one. It kind of flies under the radar too. Yeah, so you are in good company. Steve's had some great live collaborators like Mike Keneally. Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah, he's fantastic. And of course, Keys and the whole 9 yards, all, Zappa alumni. Yeah, it's very, like, I don't know. I don't even know how to say it. There's, these things happen. And then if you don't have a little imposter syndrome, you're probably not in check. So, you know what I mean? So that's part of the preparation though. It's like, well, all I can do is do my best. So you do your best. That's what you got to do. How many guitars do you own? Can you name a favorite? Oh, I don't know. To be honest, favorite. They're tools to me, so they all do different things. There's ones I love that I'm, really connected to. But if I had to pick one, well, there you go. You said it. I didn't even read that. Do you believe in connection or are they just tools? There's a certain connection. I've got my old Jackson from when I was a kid that's up there on the wall that my mom helped me get, you can't see it, but that guitar I got when I was 16. So there's a different level of, when you spend all your time practicing on something, this thing, it's like, oh, I'm 16 again, there's the neck. And it's an amazing thing. So I still love the neck on this guitar too. I did some stuff to this guitar that I never should have done, which was I back routed it. So it's got the bridge kind of sunk, which is probably better for playability, to be honest. But I wish I'd never done that. I wish I'd never done any kind of modifications to this guitar. It still has the original pickup in the neck, which is a Jackson, really good sounding sort of 59 style humbucker. And then the bridge pickup is a JB that I put in the 80s. And there's like a piece of tape that's been stuck in there for 40 years, or 35 years. That's keeping the pickup from moving, because these guitars had those Jackson humbuckers when they came out. This originally had a cover on it, and then it would have had one here too. They said Jackson and script on them, kind of look like EMGs, but they're passive pickups. They just had a plastic cover on them, and I didn't like that, so I took off the covers. But then the covers made the pickup slightly bigger, so the holes are bigger, the rings are bigger, so the pickup would bounce around in the ring. So you can see there's a fair amount of space on either side. And yeah, so took the covers off the pickups, replaced this pickup. I think this switch is original. I lost the switch tip for it years ago. I put a push-pull though in so that I could tap the humbuckers to single coil. Years ago, lost these 2 screws, but other than that, straight. And the tuners are original, the Floyd's original to the guitar. I should play it more. It's just cool. This was the era of, Steve Vai and Crossroads playing, around the time I got this guitar, playing that red one, and this is basically that guitar. It's exactly the same. I mean, it's a red, it's a custom finished version of that, the 2 humbucker with a Floyd, the basic super shredder of the day. So that guitar for me, I guess I got it when I was still living, I think, in my original house, our family house that I grew up in. I think we moved a year later or so to another place that I lived in for the next few years till I moved here. But that would be, one of the only things I still have from that period of my life, right? So, let's go with that as being, that's on another level as far as, a guitar that means something to me. Now, of course, I've got my signature models, and if I had to just do the rest of my days with one guitar, the jury's still out, like on which of my signature models is the most versatile. I love them all for different reasons. For some reason, I still feel like the original 2 humbucker, if you could only have one, maybe it's the most versatile because I can tap the neck pickup to a single coil and get single coil out of it. Whereas on my HSS version, it's a single coil, so you can't get the humbucker sound. But they're both. I love a hum single. Probably play them more, but the 2 humbucker, if you could only have one, maybe more versatile. So there comes into that into play, that sort of equation, like what's the most versatile if you can only have one. And I really love my garnet red 2 humbucker one. It's fantastic. Still love that guitar. Yeah. So it's just interesting. Let's see. Have you noticed how some easy songs are hard to play right? Sure. Yeah, Motorhead is almost impossible to play and have it sound right. You just reminded me of something. I got to contact somebody about some Motorhead stuff. Thanks for the reminder. You don't know what I'm talking about, but Motorhead came up this week. I know what you mean. Yeah, some like technical stuff where it's just a flurry of notes and a lot. If you can practice feel and time and space between notes can be a difficult thing. The getting the right feel is a different skill over playing, sweep arpeggios or something like that, which once you get, and you're in the flow. Have you had this happen, like where you learn a really, really difficult solo, but it's technically could be a lot of notes, but if the notes break down in a order that makes sense and there's not a ton of odd phrasing where it's more like fun. Like I find Jimmy Page stuff very, very, very difficult to copy and have it sound like Jimmy, because that falling down the stairs and only hitting every 2 out of 3 notes thing isn't really the way that I practiced guitar. but it's kind of the way he plays, and it's magical. It's not a dig on him. He has this thing where he's a constant flow and stream of ideas, and cleanliness isn't necessarily that was never, I don't think, at the forefront of his. He's got this sort of intangible, or I don't know, it's an elusive sort of vibe that, like, he's got the ideas in his head of what he wants it to sound like, and then he just attempts to execute it on the guitar with 85% accuracy, is generally the way it comes out, but he doesn't let that 15% of slop ever slow him down. So it's got this really human quality to it that's kind of magical. It took me a while to appreciate it, to be honest. And then once I appreciate it, I understand that it's really wonderful. So just to your point, I think that's, yeah. Okay. Let's see. What else you guys talking about here? What else? There should be an LED strip you can snap to your guitar neck to charge your loom inlays. Well, I think they just kind of like are very, very bright glow in the dark stuff. So it's like, they're charging all the time. And then when the stage lights go dim, they stay lit for hours. That's the idea. They're really bright. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'll find a picture right now of it, because I have one here. Let me see. Lumen, let's see. Here we go. So this is my friend Justin at Sir holding the different sizes, and you can see how bright they look. They come out white there for some reason, but they're actually kind of green, sort of like a glow-in-the-dark green. I don't know why they look more green here on my phone, but you can see how bright they are. So the one that I went with was this one on the end, which has a black, maybe difficult to see, but there's a black ring around the lit up illuminated center. Yeah. Yes. Ben Coombe says, don't forget to hit the like, please. We got 335 people online. Great to have you all here. Thank you for being supportive and hanging out and talking guitars. Yeah. Tony McAlpine was also killer in Steve's band. Yeah, absolutely. He did it for quite a while, I think. I got the honor of playing with Tony in a band with Michelle Polnareff. We were the two guitar players. That was really fun. So 9 years ago now. It was great. My 88 Gem 777 DY is still the pride and joy of all my guitars. Is that one of the green ones? That is it 88? Was it that long? I guess it was. They came out in 87, right? Or 86 or 87. Gem 777 DY. So is that yellow, or is that? Yeah, I guess that's the yellow one, right? Desert Yellow. I see. DY stands for Desert Yellow. That's cool. Yeah, man, they were, I remember when they came out, a friend of mine got one, and, he got one of the green ones, which were really limited, I think. They should reissue those. They probably have, right? But they only did a certain number of the green ones. And I always remember he wouldn't let me play it. I was like, can I check it out? He's like, no. And he was serious. I was sort of like, at that point, I was like, maybe this guy's an asshole. Maybe he's not my friend. Tomodachi janai desu ne. Oops. Clicked off from the window there for a minute. I couldn't see the StreamYard screen. Who's in Japan out there and knows what I'm talking about? Tomodachi janai. Yeah. 彼は友達じゃないですね. This is the first full live I've caught in months, says Jason. Good to have you here. I've been on the road since January, and it's hard to watch live. Makes me really appreciate you finding time to keep it going on tour. It's hard. I got to think about it, and sometimes it's like, really like you forget because you got a busy day or something, then you got a gig, and you do the gig, and then you're like, oh yeah, I gotta go live right now. Like right after doing the meet and greet after the show or whatever in January. It's been interesting. I hope that I can continue, and do some fun ones while I'm out on tour in the summer with the guys in Europe. So we'll see, so maybe some interesting things will happen. I don't know. That'd be my wish. That'd be great. You do a little off the cuff kind of stuff, but not counting on it, but it's interesting anyways, to think about. So we'll see. Yeah. You'd think I auditioned for Thin Lizzy. I would have loved to have played in Thin Lizzy. That's Buzz Crumhunger. 70s rocker look. What else we got here? There's another super chat. Did my first pedal mod, Boss OD3. Found an old one from 92. It was fun. So an OD3, were they out in 92? There was an OD3 back. I thought the OD3 didn't come out until the sort of mid, like 2010s period. But I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Yeah. Let's see. You're talking more about Ibanez this year. I'm connected to my old 83 Ibanez. Was given to me by my parents when I was 12. I'm connected to my Nag Steve Stevens because of playability and the Jim Wagner pickups. My Steve Stevens has bare knuckles in it, but you must have changed yours, right? I don't think those never came stock, right? You must have switched them out. Love my Steve Stevens Nags, though. Really, really good guitar. It's kind of my hot rod Les Paul. That's what I consider it, because it's got those hot pickups in it that are sort of JB Strengths, real strong, distorted guitar. It has a great sound. And I still use it for. As a matter of fact, I had it in a special tuning for a song for the Satch Vai rehearsals, and I took it. We didn't end up doing that song, but I thought this would be the right sound and guitar for this if we do end up doing it. So John Sir should make a Cityscape copy guitar and present it to you as your new signature guitar. That's cool, Lauren. I don't know if he John Sir's too good to me as it is. So the 7-string they got to me in such short order that I really, really needed, and that was just such a boon, to have for rehearsals, because I was worried about that. When I realized I needed a 7, it's like, what am I going to do? And I knew Sir made one, but I wasn't thinking that, they can get one done, because I needed it relatively quickly, and they finished one for me so fast, and I'm so glad because it was so playable and made it easier, to have such a great, it plays like butter. So that's helpful when you're adding another string. Yeah. Love that guitar of yours. That first guitar you own, the Cityscape paint job is so cool. Yeah, I mean, I've got great, full circle. I've got a picture of me in my high school yearbook playing that guitar at a lunchtime concert at my high school, and I'm playing Satch Boogie. So, yeah, full circle stuff. That's the guitar that I've learned everything on. Really. I mean, I had other guitars and practiced a lot on other guitars and stuff, but I had a really nice first run Japanese Charvel Model 2, I think it was. Had one humbucker in the bridge and a Floyd that was a Jackson Floyd. And then I added a second humbucker in the neck and made it like that guitar. So it was basically like a second to that one with the 2 humbuckers, 3-way switch, 1 volume knob. And it was kind of a nice sort of, not candy apple, but a nice red color, a metallic red, one of those. That was a great guitar. So rosewood board, I remember. Well, I wish I still had that guitar. It was a very, very good guitar for that style of guitar, Yeah, that's another one that I learned a lot on, but I had other stuff too. I had a great Kramer for a while. My first guitar with a Floyd was actually a Kramer Pacer that was just sort of pre-Beretta, maybe, but it had a Floyd, 1 humbucker, 3-way switch where you could do humbucking, parallel humbucking, and single coil. It was kind of an oddball. Chrome Floyd. That was my first Floyd guitar. I wish I still had that. It was a blue Sunburst. like black around the edges and kind of a blue in the middle. It was pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. Arthur says he's really connected with his 84 Ibanez Strat copy. Never Leaving Me sounds amazing. I like those early 80s Ibanez guitars too, like some of the, the artist ones, artist series, the Phil Collin one, the Destroyer 2. Like the Rocket Roll. I've got great memories of all those guitars because that was like when I was first into guitar, and they were showing up and people were playing them. I mean, like Phil Collin was using them. I think didn't Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden, he played one of the Destroyer 2s, I think for a while, like in the video from one of the videos from the Number of the Beast album. I got memories of these things of that, made an impact on me. Like, oh, that's a cool guitar. And the Blazers, the Ibanez sort of Strat style, that had remember with the kind of plastic pickup covers on the single coils? Those were even kind of neat. And do you remember the Steve Lukather kind of blue burst? That was cool, Had that crazy Ibanez bridge on it. I don't have any perspective on how good those were, but the big tremolo, that wasn't locking. Yeah. Yeah. But I never owned one. Crazy all these years, but my only Ibanez, my first Ibanez, and still my only Ibanez that I've ever owned is my Destroyer from 76 that I don't have in here right now. But anyways. Yeah. So referencing super leads, any info on setting bias max at wall voltage, then varying down to 90 and setting bias for 90. Well, yeah, you want to bias it, correctly for each, so that the bias, I don't have the number, that'd be a Dave Friedman question, but basically you bias down to 90 and then you got to crank up the bias to get it back where it was, whatever the, and I do know how to bias a PT100. I know how to do that, but I don't claim to know how to do it on a Plexi. Now on a SL68, for example, that's exactly what it does. When I switch it, there's a 3-way switch on it, up and down. You're not gonna be able to see it, but that light gets brighter when it's down because it's more voltage. And basically you've got a power transformer that has, I think, 2 taps, and when you switch it, it goes from one to the other, and it's changed. There's 2 bias pots on the inside, so that it's doing that automatically. So when you're using an SL68 in 120 or 90, it's switching that bias value. You go in and you adjust it for both, with the 2 pots. It's ingenious so that it's right. The problem is when it's biased for 120 and then you go down to 90 and you don't bias it, it's super cold then and it doesn't really sound right. So it's not the right thing. So you gotta do the bias to really have it. I mean, Eddie used to just he'd go down to 90 and then they'd crank the bias pot all the way because he thought that was what to do. Well, they blew a lot of tubes that way. And once used to hear about them, having unreliable, they always had to have other amps around and stuff, but that all stopped evidently. Makes sense when Jose actually started matching sets of tubes for them, and then teaching, probably Rudy about biasing it correctly. Interesting stuff. A couple super chats I gotta get there. Van Halen, I'm the One, simplest riff ever, Impossible Swing. Yeah, that's what you gotta get it. Super chat there, coming at you, coming at me. All the way from the European Union. Last week, I was asking about boost pedals for Plexis. I got the Coco Boost and also the Boss OD3, which someone in the chat suggested. That's great. So you got everything that we were talking about here. Both cool pedals, right? And different. So I'd say you got your boost and overdrive needs covered there for a while, for sure. Maybe forever. Maybe forever. I was saying Van Halen, Feel Your Love Tonight is simple but so hard. There's a certain swag. It's crazy hard to cop. Yeah. One of the great things about Eddie, and there's a lot of great stuff on Van Halen 1 that illustrates this, is his way he would bounce between lead and rhythm and also between the low strings and the high strings. Sometimes it's tighter chords, single note riffs, bouncing up to the top strings for a little bit, do it, and all that stuff combined with the feel. That's Eddie Van Halen, and he was magical at it. Hendrix was another guy that was like kind of like that, right? When you think about the guitar in I don't know, like anything that he played was all that Spanish Castle Magic or what's the song? Castles Made of Sand, all that cool rhythm lead stuff where he's bouncing between single notes and chords, and that they're not the same. And I don't think Eddie was the biggest fan of Hendrix. I think he always said Clapton was his guy, but there's a similarity there in how they, in a sort of a trio format when it comes to the music, you got a lot of space to fill, and they both did it in their own way. And there's no one thing. I mean, when Eddie starts soloing and it's technical, it's okay. It's sort of difficult, but it's like, there's no one thing in there that's necessarily super technical. It's putting it all together and making it sound effortless, flowing between the rhythm and the lead stuff. That is the hard part, I guess, making it sound like you're not working hard, making it sound like it's just flowing. Yeah. Thoughts on the cheap Marshall heads, Origin versus DSL? I've heard an Origin that was modded here by Friedman that sounded great. You can do things to them, I think, that will take them to be pretty next level, pretty great sounding, actually. So they're not expensive either, are they? They're at least not yet. Yeah, let's see. Page and Keith Richards have what I call the $1 million slop. You get good, then perfect. I was listening to I was listening to Sticky Fingers yesterday, and Keith on that is so great. There's such good stuff on that record. Boy, what a great record, and it was recorded so well. Andy Johns, man, he did some stuff that just, the records all sound, and Glenn, of course, the records just sound so friggin' good. It was like the best sounding rock records ever. Just expertly just done. So, I can't even put my words together. It's so good. Woo. Okay, what else? I struggle with timing in solos, says Tales from Folklore. Just practice tapping your foot. First of all, that's an important one. Can you tap your foot and play? Because if you can do that, it really helps. If you've got that sort of metronomic pulse going on, that's your internal thing, I saw a kid a little while ago. When I say kid, he was probably 15 or something, but kid to me. In Paris, I was in one of the guitar shops in Paris last summer, and there's kind of a, like, it's that area close to Pigalle where all the music stores are. And if you've been there, and there's a certain store that kind of sells metal guitars down there, for those that know what I'm talking about, pointy guitars and stuff. That's their primary, like crazy V's and, ESPs and stuff like that. And this guy was in there playing, and he was really good and technically just pretty flawless for a young kid, like you see these kids these days. And I noticed he was tapping his foot so loudly, and it was like really like a metronome. And I told him, I went up to him and I go, man, I really like how your time is like, that sounds so good, and he was like, oh, thanks. Didn't know me from Adam, and but he was cool. He was a great guitar player. He sounded really, really, really confident and defined. I thought, man, these kids these days put us all out of work. Anyways, I've got loom inlays in all my stage guitars, says Stefan. Do you pronounce your name Steven or Stefan? I'm sorry, I always get that. I don't want to make that mistake. I use my cell phone flashlight to make them glow before I go out sometimes. That's cool. So but tell me, like, do they stay lit for the whole show and you like them like a lot? Is it something, because it's new for me? So teach me. I'm hoping they're going to be great. If I've been mostly an LP short scale mahogany guy, will I love an Axis? I mean, an Axis from Ernie Ball, right, is probably they have their own unique feel. The Ernie Ball, like the Van Halen model, that became the Axis, just because of the body shape and stuff. They sort of sit on your body in an interesting way. Um, I would say that maybe, especially if you're used to a junior, maybe it's going to kind of work good for you. There's still a longer scale, 25 and a half scale, but they definitely have they're not worlds apart, and maybe closer, than a Strat or something, or a Telly. They definitely have a distinct feel to them, and you kind of have to practice on them, I think, because they don't feel like the way, it's a little like an SG, or a more severe example, a Firebird. The way they sit on your body and they kind of, hang and stuff is a little different but maybe more similar to something like a Junior than it is to a Strat. So your mileage may vary, but it just takes a little time to get used to them, I think. Yeah. Yes. Okay, moving down to the chat here. What are we talking about? You mentioned The Train by King's X as a great reference tone song. What other reference songs do you like? I love The Train. Different eras of Van Halen, like Van Halen 1 for that certain more distorted sound, Van Halen 2 for raw and pure, Fair Warning for a darker and still really badass version of Van Halen, obviously, like, amazing. The beginning of Mean Street with the big open G chord that rings is like benchmark for me for that sort of Marshall tone. But then, like, so let's go way off the ranch here. How about Robbie Blunt on those, early Robert Plant solo albums? Incredible, clean, so simple, with a couple of Princetons, I think, and an old Strat, and maybe compression, and a chorus. It was such a great sound with so much vibe. Maybe Knopfler on Brothers in Arms. How do you get there? That's soulful. Avia Musicom. Some of the tones on there are just like otherworldly great. The flanger on what's the song with the flanger? With the crossing flangers. Like, how long did it take him to get that sound? It was so cool. And just the cleans, the era when he was doing the, kind of from was it Tones onto Avia Musicom, like the whole Austin City Limits thing, all those sounds with the Marshall with the fuzz and the Dumble and the two Fenders and stuff, the clean sounds on, like, and on Avia Musicom, like Desert Rose and stuff. That stuff's incredible. Live at Leeds, amazing rock guitar tone. What else? You pick numerous Brian May, whether it's Tie Your Mother Down or We Will Rock You, the end. It's like, God, this sounds so cool. What else? Texas Flood, other 80s stuff. Let me think. I mean, George Lynch had some great sounds. Warren DeMartini, for those hot Marshall tones. Incredible. Gilmore, like numerous examples. Vibe, I mean, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, the intro's like Some of those sounds are kind of more than the solo stuff to me, or the lead stuff. I mean, I love the lead stuff too, but those when you can play four notes like the intro "Shine On You Crazy Diamond" and have it, impact like it did, pretty cool. Alex Lifeson on but there's numerous examples. Once again, numerous examples. Some of his tones are so bizarre and unique. The Limelight guitar sound is really strange and cool in this mid-rangey way, but it's just you can't imagine the song sounding any different. I love it when a tone or a part has the effect of you could never imagine it different. It's like that's the part of that song that made that, the intro to Purple Rain, like, for example, right? It's what was her name? Cindy, right? Playing guitar on that tone with the chorus and everything. It's just like perfection, and it became a part of the music. You can't imagine it being any different. Yeah. Well, there's a whole bunch. Whole bunch. Okay, moving down through the chat. How much difference does rear porting a cab make versus closed back? Rear porting a 212. Porting's an interesting thing. I don't know, what's your example of a rear ported 212? What do they call it when they mount speakers from the front or from the back? That makes a difference if you hear the difference. I'm not saying which one's better or worse, but I think the speakers that are mounted in the back, that's the way, in Marshall cabs and stuff, that's the standard way to do it. But in a lot of 112s, you'll find the speakers screwed in from the front, and it's a different sound, maybe more in your face and not quite as dark. It has a different sound. Ported, I have a couple of 112 sitting in here right now that like the original little Bogner Cube that was made to kind of do a 412 thing, but in a 112, it's got a great sound. The Sir 112s are a little bigger, and I think they mount the speakers in the front. So the Bogner is rear. I have two examples of cabs right here. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so if you were to look at, I'm going to take a picture right now. Both of these cabinets, right? The one that you see there, the bigger one, has the speaker obviously mounted in, front mounted. It's a little bit bigger dimensionally as well and has two ports. The one beside it is a Bogner, and it's got the speaker mounted from the back, and it's a little smaller dimensionally and has the ports. Different sound. I would say the Sir sounds more in your face, and the Bogner sounds a little darker, maybe a little more like a 412, and it's like a small, compact, not like the bigness of a 412, but maybe sort of the slightly less in your face, darker character. And then how a 112 that's can sound like really in your face. I don't know. That's the way I hear it. That's what the Sir sounds like to me. They're both good. They're just different. Essential for a classic rock tone. I mean, it's like, I don't know, man. I mean, classic rock tone is all over the map. So you can't define one classic rock sound. Plenty of classic rock songs were done with combos. I just use Limelight as an example. That's a Marshall Club and Country combo, right? Couldn't be more different than what most people would think of, as a classic rock tone. It was kind of Fender's twin reverb almost, and he would turn them up till they got distorted and hit them with a micro amp, I think, sometimes and stuff, and do different things with them. So I wouldn't say it's essential, nothing is like, this is the benchmark, it's like, but we can say, well, what's the standard, probably a late 60s, into the 70s Marshall with greenbacks or H30s is probably the most sort of standard that, from AC/DC to Free to, Bad Company to, I don't know, Kiss to, Van Halen and stuff. That's kind of the formula they used. So lots of other examples though, and exceptions to that, not even a rule. So yeah. Yeah. Okay, what else we got? Let's see. I just got the Musicom Lab FX LE2 for my first switcher. How brutal is the learning curve on that unit? It can be. It's not that. Yeah, you're just kind of naming all the stuff, but yeah, you got to go in and name all your MIDI stuff. Okay, I'm going to make device 1 this strum, and I'm going to make device 2 this, and I'm going to set the MIDI channel. Then you go and you set it on the pedal. You know, and then the amp channels, sure, stereo. Yeah, it's there's a learning curve. I wouldn't say it's a brutal learning curve though, not for me. I mean, but I've also been deep into the Musicom Lab world that's been my switcher ever since I left Rack World and got back into everything being on a pedal board, which was around 2011. So it's been a minute. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what else? Let's see. Would it be cool for you to have freestyle on a backing track found live at random on YouTube? You could teach us how to jam along. Freestyle on a backing track. I mean, I could. Yeah. It's, I generally what I'll do when I'm coming up with solos and stuff in the songs that you hear me do, I guess, which I make my own backing tracks and then I solo on them, is I'll sit there and just play over them for a good long while until I come up with the basic idea of what I want to do. And then I start going for takes, So I play over it and I find an arc to the solo. So it's never, some people are amazing at, my friend Jamie is like that. Never did do it the same way twice, I mean, he probably could, but he's an improv guy. I am sort of an improv guy and I can totally improv solos and stuff. And I do it all the time, but I like to sit with something and then find an arc to it, because I feel like I'm more effective that way. I like to come up with, plan it out a little bit more, because I just feel like I want it to be melodic. I want it to hit on certain points. Some people, are so friggin' good, Mike Landau or something, that they don't really probably need to do. I mean, I'm sure he does do that, but it's like he could just sit there and play over things and he's going to play really interesting stuff no matter what, because he's on another level. Just that's the goal to get to, but I'd rather if I had to pick, I'd rather hear a solo that was more defined and probably somewhat planned out and written out, just like the melody of a song is, because I'm more interested in that. I'm more interested in, there's a reason why the Eagles solos are so timeless, and you can sing, that, and you have to kind of play them, because they were just so, and they're part of the music. And that's a little more my lane than jazz improv or every night being different and going totally out on a limb and falling flat on your face and all that stuff. I think there's definitely, there's a case for that, and it's awesome. That was kind of like I read a Frank Zappa interview once where he was saying that's kind of he has no interest in, that kind of stuff. That's the fun part. And I get that, that level of improv and everything. And there's a time and a place, and it's a thing, but I just, at the end of the day, I'm just a songs guy. So, if it can support the song and make the song even better, as opposed to just be sort of like, oh, now I get to have fun and get my yayos out and say whatever I want to say. It's like two different intentions almost, I think. So it's my long-winded way of saying, I don't know. To your question, like, could you just improvise over something? It's like, I'd rather sit there and develop a solo actually than show you what I come up with. Yeah. Have you had any experience with the VP before? I have one right here. There it is. But I haven't gotten too into it yet. Still has the plastic on it. You can see. I just haven't had time. Since I got back, I had thought about maybe trying to incorporate it for the tour. Who knows? Maybe I still will. But I ended up, just because because I know it so well, I ended up using the Quad Cortex actually for some stuff. But this seems amazing, and I've heard nothing but good things, so I do intend to get into it. Maybe this becomes, another pedal board for me, where this becomes all my post stuff, and then I add a few pedals in front. I mean, this would almost fit on my little board down. I'm just looking at the little board I've got here. I think I could actually make this fit on my second pedal board here. Right now I've got a Lumine and a Dig for delay and reverb. And they're in a parallel mixer, you know, but if this would actually, I'm just going to take a look here really quick. Yeah, this actually fits, I think, on here. So I could actually put the VP4 on there for post-effect stuff, and it would be really powerful then, because I'd have a whole, you know, the Illuminate and the Dig are amazing. You know, they're awesome. But they are a delay and a reverb, you know, whereas this is like anything. So maybe that's what I'll do on that board and give it a try or something. Get into it that way. Because it does seem like a fantastic unit that's relatively simple and just really cool. So you like yours? You're saying you use it every day as a pedal board. That's awesome. I'll give it a go some more, you know. I've got probably some time this week. So I got to get into it. I've got a lot to do, but I'm more calm for the next 6 weeks or so than I was recently. Would it be great if you could do a rig, or would be great if you could do a rig rundown of all the guitar rigs when you're on tour? I would love to do that if they would let me. You know, I'll pose it and see if it's possible. You know, for sure that would be a really neat. You know, Steve did pretty recently a great rig rundown on Premier Guitar of his Beat rig with the you know, the addition of the JC 120 and stuff like that. Pretty cool. But I'd love to do that. They're both doing such different things, you know, with their, you know, Joe's using those third powers and got a different, you know, much more sort of lean sort of aesthetic. And then Steve, not that Steve has a ton, Steve's got it's all has a purpose. And you know about his rig probably, where he uses axe effects for the post effects and stuff, and then the synergy preamp modules for his kind of core tones and with the Fryette power amps that he's using. Yeah. Arthur says he swapped out the bare knuckles with Jim Wagner pickups because he wanted the brutal sound but sweetness. Cool. That's cool. Yeah. What else have we got here? Let's see. Who's your favorite bass player? Great question. I love a lot of, you know, I mean, it'd be too hard to pick a favorite. I'd love to spend a little more time learning bass and actually get into it. I know I would end up in Motown land a little bit, because that stuff is so cool. Because I love bass parts that drive the song, that are like a really important part of the tune. So I would love to get into, you know, that, just that really rooted in, you know, I would probably spend a lot of time, you know, Jamerson or something, you know, getting into that. As far as the kind of the classic rock guys go, I mean, McCartney is, you know, McCartney, John Paul Jones, John Entwistle are sort of the, you know, maybe the great trifecta of, you know, classic rock bass players to me. Then there was, you know, the simpler folks that did a great job and just were everything that the song needed too. So, but yeah, I would say as far as the rock guys go, John Paul Jones, Paul McCartney, John Entwistle. Can you recommend a 7-string I could pick up for around 500? Well, I would look for probably, I did the smallest amount of research, thinking, man, I might have to buy one of these. That's not going to be a Sir, you know, and just to have like right away. And you know, you've basically got some Jacksons, some Ibanez. There's not a heck of a lot of others, you know, so I would say look at those two, you know, some Jacksons, some Ibanez and stuff, and see if you can find something that's used that was maybe, you know, 800 or 900 brand new, and you can pick up for a bit of a deal. Just outside, plus 20, just outside Edmonton, enjoying the sun and watching. Is it really plus 20? Wow, watching the legend, legendary nerd. Thanks, Tone Dragon. Thanks for being here. Have you tried the Marshall JMD1? What is a JMD1? Let me see. Marshall JMD1. Oh. Is it a modeling amp? Or like a valve state or something? I haven't. Yeah, it's modeling. Never tried these. Sorry, I don't know. I don't know. Oh yeah, Schecter. Schecter's another for 7-string that you could check out. For sure, they make them. Yep. What else we got here? Let's see. Mark says, if you guys have Facebook or any other pages, share this thing. Let's get it up for Pete to where he can start getting paid to do this. It's not much, but everything helps. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm not here for the payday or anything like that, but YouTube is great for it's almost like the money that comes from YouTube and stuff, for Google ads and stuff like that. It's like a great little extra income stream that I've never really actively worked on trying to make that like my thing. Like that needs to, really be a payday or something like that. But it is nice, and it does add up. The ads are annoying on YouTube, and I feel the same way when I click on a YouTube video. But every time I do it, I'm thinking, because I'm watching a guitar video for something, I'm thinking, well, this guy's getting a little kickback from this car commercial or whatever the heck it is, which is helpful for musicians these days, because there's not enough income streams for musicians are struggling these days. So I do appreciate that. Anyways, thanks. Some more than others, right? It's hard to be a musician these days, like to release new music and go on tour and do, there's a lot of these stories that I hear every day about people, and it just becomes, if I was, in my 20s and the prospect of touring and slagging it out, with, you can't really bring crew or band, a lot of people are going out and doing it with just like one other musician, the singer and a guitar player, and then everything else is on tracks and stuff. And it's like, there's a reason, because it's like, it's just really hard now to make it make sense. So anyways, it's tough, but yeah. I have a Kramer Beretta I found at a pawn shop. That's cool. Probably white at some point. Looks like it was normal Strat trim at some point, but it has a German Floyd. Interesting. Some mods done. Every guitar's got a story. Let's see. Mark says, rock on, guys. We're up to 113 likes. Thanks, guys. Yeah, hit the thumbs up button if you don't mind. I appreciate it. Helps spread the video far and wide. My last Sunday Live got 8,000 views, I think, which is awesome. They generally hover around 5, for us, our targeted small but mighty group of guitar nerds. But yeah, the last one hit 8, which was great. Feels good. Still here doing this stuff. Okay. My Fire Mist Gold Fender Roadward Strat will never leave me. Roadwards are cool. Dave Friedman bought a few of those, and he has some really cool ones, like a Fiesta red one and a black one, and they're good guitars. Maybe all the Strat one needs. Yeah. Have you checked out the new Fractal VP4? There, I was just showing that a minute ago. So I'll get into it. I'll definitely, I've got to put some time aside to do it. And then maybe, like I say, it definitely deserves a spot on a board, I think, as being, I want to use it because I'm a stereo guy these days, diehard. I want to use it in a configuration where it's stereo. And I think the only way to do that is just use it for the post effects, which will kind of make it so I can't use the drives and stuff. But I've got other drives on my sort of main little secondary board here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's take a picture so you can see this little board, and then the VP4 on my messy floor. One sec, decent photograph here. It's still gonna have a shadow on it, but Okay. So this is my secondary board that I'm using as my kind of my studio board now. And you can see the VP4 there underneath. So that VP4 I just measured will fit. See where the Illuminae is up there towards the sort of top left and the dig. If I was to remove those and then just put the VP4 there, it would be in the spot that's sort of for post effects. And I could do delay, reverb, rotary, pitch stuff, all kinds of things with it. And then I've got the Starlight, the Archer, Keeley compressor on there, a boost there. That's currently I've got the superconductor boost on there. I've got an analog chorus in front. That's the Anodyne mono chorus. And I've got a Zelza that'll do sort of chorus, flange, phase, mod stuff in front. Plenty of options there for guitar tone. I mean, to be honest, I mean, most of the time in the studio, I use that little board down there. It's primarily a tuner, and I'll sometimes use the compressor or one of the boosts or the fuzz. That's the primary things that I'm doing with it, or the Archer, I guess. But the stereo path stuff, I actually haven't used even that much, and I love having a board down there though so that I can instantly kick on things. I did it in the video that I'm doing for a product this week. That's kind of a preamp pedal. I kicked on the fuzz, kicked on the Archer, used the compressor a bit to show what some simple effects sound like in front of this preamp pedal. And it's nice just to have that like right on the fly at your feet. So yeah, I could totally use that board though. So I just got a switcher on it and time-based stuff. I could use it as a programmed, primary guitar rig on a lot of things that I do, so. I owned a ton of Ibanez guitars growing up. The only one I wish I still had was a black Roadstar 2 local shop. Spoiled Ibanez for me forever. I think that means it was a bad thing. I don't know. What happened with the local shop? Tell us the story. Have you? Oh, sorry. Already answered that one. Here's 2 super chats. Have a chance to grab a 78 1960A. With a 75 hertz, 25 watt blackback, so speakers. Okay, yeah. I hear people talk of the cool 55 hertz 30s, but is 75 hertz similar to the greens that preceded them? No, yeah. The 75 that cabinet is basically exactly like the one I use here in the studio. Late 70s, 1960A, 75 hertz, 25 watt blackbacks. That's the classic greenback speaker, just with a black back on it. That's basically the spec and everything. And it's a lead cone, lead spec speaker. And that's kind of the main, 55 hertz, 30 watts are cool, but I wouldn't call it it's an offshoot of, it's the Hendrix speaker for sure. That's what he liked. The bass cone, heavier magnet, 30 watt, but it's not my primary, I'm a greenback guy for dirty rock guitar tone. That's what I love. The speakers that you're talking about. So I would get that cab if it's a decent price. That's my recommendation. Thanks for the super chat. Your German says, as a LP and Tele guy, I will love or hate an Axis. Oh, that we answered this already. Torn between the normal model and Super Sports, or either of those and a PRS, rock, metal, blues. It's just its own thing. You kind of have to play them. They've got a unique neck. It's not a big neck. Kind of a little more narrow. Not super small, but it's a kind of a narrow neck, and it's its own thing. And then the body shape, sort of Tele-ish. If you're used to a Tele, it doesn't feel that dissimilar. But the way that the leg cut thing sits on your leg moves the guitar to a slightly different position than a Tele. So you just kind of have to try it. That'd be my recommendation, is spend a little time with it and see if you like where it sits on you, and you'll know what I'm talking about when you pick one up. It sits in a slightly different place. So that's unique to that guitar. You can't really compare it to a Les Paul or to anything else. So as long as you're cool with all that, sometimes I find the most comfortable place to play, or way to play an Axis or Ernie Ball or my EVH, my Amber EVH guitar, is on my left leg classical guitar style. It feels like that's the most comfortable place for it to sit, for it to kind of make sense to me. And I never play like a Les Paul there, for instance. So just to try it out and see what you think. You just have to try it. There's no way, there's nothing I can say that'll be like, yes, this will definitely work for you, or it won't. You just have to get it in your hands. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Valley Arts were cool, says Ben Tom. I just didn't like the headstock. Yeah, they had that Strat headstock, but with the ball on the end, kind of, that was kind of unique. But you knew what it was right away. That's cool. A friend of mine had a Larry Carlton. Remember those? It was a 24 3/4 scale telly shape, two P90s with a tunematic and stoptail. Interesting, like a junior, but not, you know, telly junior thing with 24 3/4. There's not a lot of bolt-on 24 3/4 guitars out there. I mean, Sir's got the Oso now. That's one, you know. Yeah. So, yeah. Mr. Douglas, surprised Satchvai didn't ask you to take at least one Ibanez on tour. They're, not. Dave Weiner was a PRS guy, right? I think. I think. I'm forgetting his name now, which I feel bad about. But Vi's recent guitar player that played with him for the last few years starts with a D. Can't remember his name. Sorry. He, I believe, was a Strandberg guy. The guy that I've seen play with Joe, in the past, he wasn't an Ibanez guy. So, these guys, they all respect different, you get a relationship with a company like they've had for a long time. It never came up, to be honest. It was never talked about. I will say everyone else in the band, because Marco is an Ibanez endorser, so everyone else is and Kenny's at Tama drums, so they're all Hashino, for sure. But it's okay. I mean, I'm friendly with the Ibanez folks. I mean, I know their artist guy, Mike, here in town. I see him all the time, actually, and he popped by rehearsal, and I'm friendly with him. This stuff doesn't really come up. The industry is really supportive, generally speaking. It's a competitive industry, but different people move around sometimes from company to company, and everybody recognizes that. And we're all in it for guitar and the love of it originally. And so it's like there's a mutual respect, I think, between great guitar companies, and everybody respects they respect loyalty and that sort of thing. That's been my experience anyway, with reps for different companies and the vibe. It's never like, nice Sir over there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. You should probably be playing an Ibanez. It's never like that. So you never get shook down. At least I haven't. How was the cleanup with the volume pots on your Yaren? Quite good. Does it get brighter or janglier? I would say it's quite neutral. It's 50 style wiring, and they tend to do that. So, for whatever reason, that 50 style wiring on Les Pauls is kind of usually a faster roll down and kind of just works. So, if you do the Jimmy Page thing where you kind of live in the middle position, then bounce the pickups, there's a lot of variety in there, and it's never quite the same thing twice. But that's part of the magic. What's my opinion of the 10th anniversary gem? That's what I was wondering. Like, I'm going to take a look here. Did those come out in the 90s? Gem. 10th anniversary gem. 10th anniversary. Oh, is that the black one with the silver? I've seen one here for 13 grand. Holy geez. Wow, there's some really amazing, like, expensive gems. I didn't realize. Here's a 20th anniversary for $8,500. Kind of a clear body. Very interesting. The gem is an amazing phenomenon. Like, it's like, who's had a signature guitar for longer? I mean, Steve's had, and more models and versions of it. Amazing. Steve Vai owned Ibanez Gem 10th. I see. Yeah, this one was owned by Steve. That's why it's so expensive. It's really cool looking, black with binding, and but yeah, it just kind of as a it's a community, the Gem community unto itself, sort of, isn't it? I guess I see here Liberty Music one for they're black with the crazy mother of pearl binding and everything. Really, that's pretty cool looking. But I love the simplicity of the black, but with the pearl binding actually, and then the bound neck and everything. It's pretty cool. They're not cheap. Looks like they go for somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 grand, plus or minus, however much. It's such a unique guitar. Did anyone watch Saturday Night Live last night? Who was the musical guest? I didn't actually. Yeah. Let's see here. Nekdet Kapar says, I guess you're playing in the UK with Satch Vi. I will be there. I will be there on stage. Doing my best for a couple of my heroes. Yep. Yep. Nuno Betancourt does that lead rhythm groove playing very well. Absolutely. Yeah, and his big influence was Eddie, for sure. That's where it all come from, Eddie. If we're a modern rock player. So the live Van Halen clips that keep popping up show how great a band they were and how way ahead of the rest when it came to ripping solos and riffing. Yeah, those videos are amazing. I may have them all downloaded. So cool. Yep. Oh, it was Brandy Carlisle. That's cool. Nice. On SNL, huh? Okay. What else we got here? Ooh, I just realized that I've got a peanut butter bar in my pocket that I need to eat because they're not good once they're not refrigerated. Bear with me while I read. Have you ever used a Blackstar amp on stage? No. Yes. I did. Remember a while ago I did a demo? Anybody remember I did a demo for one of the 40-watt combos? Nice amp, 2-channel with a boost that works on either channel. I did a gig that weekend that I was filming the video, and I took it and I actually used it. It was a cover gig at a pub. I thought, this will work just perfect. So I think I took my HX stomp and I ran it right into the front just for some simple effects. And I channel switched the amp and then used a few of the sound on the HX stomp. There you go. Okay, what else we got here? These days, you have to be a masterful rhythm player. Not a lot of 2-guitarist gigs anymore. I don't know. There's 3 guitarists on my gig. Oh boy. Harrison Ford calls anyone under 83 kid. I love that. He gets to do that. Is there anyone cooler? You're Indiana Jones and Han Solo. Just saying. Yep. Okay. What else we got here? Let's see. Listening to Jimmy Page is like having a conversation with a drunkard, but then you get into the ideas and they're so good you forget how drunk he is. Sure. Yep. Oh, that's cool. Get yourself a pocket UV flashlight. Best thing for illuminating lumen light. I guess that could be my iPhone, right? That'll work. Just light it up for 5 minutes before the gig, or ask my tech to do it. I mean, that's the kind of thing where you could just take one of those tech lights that they've got on their stand. Just say, can you just turn that on the neck of the guitar for half an hour leading up to the show? Yeah. Let's see here. Axis is so small. It's a smaller, but if you're used to a Les Paul Jr. or something, which the fellow was saying he was, or a Telly, it's going to feel a little smaller than a Telly, little, but not dissimilar to the like a single cutaway Junior or something, probably in feel. Just sits a little different on your body. That's all. Just rock your Thornbuckers in my PRS today for about 1,000 people. Rock and roll. Thanks for what you do. I hope you had a great show. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. Buzz says the Axis is tiny compared to Jazzmaster. That's like two polar opposites. Jazzmaster is a Jazzmaster is almost like playing a Firebird or a reverse body or non-reverse body, whichever, the Gumby one. It's huge. Yeah. Oh, I'm way back, aren't I? Because I was talking about Robbie Blunt. The solo to Big Log is killer. All his rhythm plating, Ship of Fools and all that crazy cool stuff that Robbie did was so great. I'm going to go down through the chat here because I'm way, way back. So I'm going to skip down. Just pick up a couple. On the Satriani tour, Satriani had 2 412s. 2 were closed back. 2 had different cutouts in the back. He'd switch between them depending on the era he was going for. Yeah, it's neat. He gets really into, like, he's a guy that, like, I think likes to do the research to find out all the stuff, like maybe what was done, but then he'll do it in his own way. He's not afraid to, like, oh, that sound, I'm going to use this type of pickup that might be a totally different thing, or like the effects and stuff. He just kind of does what makes him. Yeah, I think he wants to feel like really comfortable, and he's Joe Satriani, so he's a stylist, and so he'll do it in his own way and get there, and it's cool. I like that about him, that it's like he doesn't care about it being exactly like that it's got to be exact gear or the exact whatever. He's like, does it in his own way, and that's a neat thing, Just sent you an email. I need your help, says Jared Glassby. Well, if it's relationship advice, then I'm not going to be able to help you. But if it's something to do with a guitar pedal or something, I'll do my best. But I miss a lot of emails. I'm sorry. I'll try and catch it. I'm just so, email drives me crazy, man, because it's like there's so much junk in my inbox every day. It just invariably shows up there, and then like things get lost, and I remember a week later, like, oh yeah, you didn't email that person back, and that's just, my cop out is ADHD. But I do the best I can. All right, moving down through the chat once again. I get closer to the bottom here. Yeah. Steve looks so cool with that hat in Beat. Aging well. Yeah, Steve's just cool. I mean, I love the effort that he puts into everything, like his playing, his sounds, his outfits, is like that dude does not phone anything in, and it's inspiring. It's inspiring. Very, very hard worker, and really cares about all the aspects of what he does. Everything. Ever hear of Thorn guitars? Yeah, of course. Yeah. I've never played one, but yeah. I believe he's Canadian as well. Another Canadian Thorn with no E. Let's see. Pete Farback, says Todd. I'm working on it. I know. I think, a fair amount of people showed up, and then I just kind of got stuck in the same flow, but I need to go faster. So I'll try and go quicker. I have a Sir Classic Antique SSS, and I love it, but I almost never use the V60 LP bridge pickup on its own. Any recommendations for a stacked single to bring the heat? I think you might want to try. What I tried recently that's great is a Fralin for that. There's a Fralin that Dave Friedman has in it. It's a Tele bridge pickup. It is so quiet. It's the quiet. Dave's area and my building here, they get noisy. There's we have the similar issue of noise getting into our guitar pickups, and that pickup blew me away. He's like, check out how quiet this is, and I was really knocked out by it. So besides the tone, because it sounded great, but you'd have to ask Dave, so you could ask him on Tone Talk or something. But it's a Tele pickup that's a stack, and in the bridge of an Esquire that's pink that he's got. It's a Friedman guitar, but it looks like an Esquire, one pickup Tele. Ask him what that is, because I was like, damn, that's a really good, just the fact that it was so damn quiet as well as sounded pretty cool, I thought. So maybe that. Okay. Or you could get a new PT traditional 90 signature with my brand new PT90 P90 style bridge pickup, which brings the heat. but not too hot, just perfect. Chris says Dave Weiner was Steve's guitarist. I know, but he had another guy. His name was like, man, I'm forgetting this cat's name, and I'm sorry if he ever watches this, but it was like Dimitri, maybe, for the last 3 years, because Dave left a few years ago. Mm-hmm. Almost done this peanut butter bar. Jesus, delicious. You guys ever tried these? I endorse these wholeheartedly. Perfect Bar, they're called. You'll find them in the refrigerator section of a Starbucks, for example. 17 grams of protein, 20 plus superfoods. The original refrigerated protein bar, peanut butter. Oh my God, they're good. Just my absolute favorite on-the-go snack. Woo, it's tasty. Okay, moving down through the chat. Quicker. What else we got here? The Paul Stanley effect. He's now publicly known as a major knowledgeable collector. He mentions a model on Reverb and price jumps 100-fold for that model. That's funny. Paul's a nice guy. He's a major, yeah, for sure, guitar geek. He's got some beautiful guitars. He's got a urine, I do believe, and he got it just after I got mine. No question. Just a cheers for you getting to go live out on a dream gig so we can live out a dream gig so we can all live vicariously, and some coffee. Thank you, Philip. Appreciate you, man. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. I know I'm a happy guy these days, for sure. Watched a video of Harrison Ford on the subway in New York City just doing his thing and talking to people. He seems like a great guy. I'd love to meet that cat someday, just to pay my respects. You know, the coolest. Him and Anthony Hopkins. Love to meet him too. Cool dudes. 2 questions. Who can repair a CAE 3+ preamp? John Sir, Bob Bradshaw, Dave Friedman. I would say, you know, you're barking up the right tree. I'm sure John would be happy to. He's always backed up, but you know, he knows it like no one else. If it's something very simple, you know, I'm sure Bob's on the East Coast now, and Dave's on West Coast, so it just depends, you know. But I would send cs@sir.com maybe an email first and mention that you've got one of those, and would it be possible to have it sent in for John to do a once over? Yeah. My future predictions that Sammy and Michael are going to do something with Phil X. No, I haven't heard anything. Just noticed their chemistry from watching videos. Phil wouldn't tell me anyway. Haha. That's possible. I mean, Phil. Yeah, Sammy's aware of Phil, I think, and but I think Sammy and they're very happy working with Joe. They've got a long relationship. Working together in Chickenfoot, and so I think Joe loves it. So there you go. Yeah. Yeah. Richard says, on the Hagar tour, Satch still sounded like Satch, and at the same time he honored the music. Yeah, I mean, which is kind of what, he's Joe, he's a guitar legend in his own right, and it's kind of like Paul Rodgers doing Queen, right? And Brian May did an interview where he's like, he's freaking Paul Rodgers. Like, it's like he's his own man, and it's true. And I think that about Joe too. He's earned that, right? All these years of, since the late 80s of putting out records and music and having hit songs of his own and stuff like that. So as it should be, So yeah. What else? I need relationship help. I accidentally swapped my wife's lipstick with super glue. A week later, she still isn't talking to me. That sounds like a John Sir joke. Okay, what gear will you use for the Setch by tour? I think that I'm just sticking with what I'm comfortable with these days, which is my I've already done all the work, to tell you the truth, with the making the sounds and everything. So sure, you can wheel in a rack for top notch effects. Don't really need to, man. I mean, an Eventide H90 is a rack. An SDE 3000 EVH is two SDE 3000s in a pedal. So, it's amazing what they're doing these days. But, between those and then my pedals and other stuff that I added, including the Quad Cortex, which I'm using in some unique ways, I kind of A/B between my amp rig and then the quad to do some certain textures and different things. And I have all that going. So I've actually got two pedal boards for the tour that are kind of, I had to add a second board to do a few things that I just didn't have on mine. So, but it's gonna be lovely. Oh, there's a super chat there. Who's that? Jamalema. Really appreciate you being so accessible. Thanks. Yeah, oh man, it's fun. I wouldn't change a thing. My pleasure being here, and thanks for the super chat. Thanks as always for your support, folks. Let's see what else we got. Emailed you last Sunday a pic of my music wall and my pedal board. Joe, I don't know if I saw it this week. Let me take a look and see if I can find it right now. Let's see. My email's a little bonkers when it comes to CALI, like what's your I don't know, it depends on your email name, because I'm searching your name and I'm not seeing it. I'm finding an email that says your event lineup, Michael Schenker. I didn't know I was going to Michael Schenker. Am I? Oh, upside to the guy said somebody just sent it. Oh, that's cool. I just found an email. Sometimes this happens where I search for something and then I find an old email from a friend that I haven't talked to in ages. That just happened. An email from Joel Hoekstra. I'm not finding your email, man. Anyway, maybe send it again. Resend it, and I'll take a look right now. I'll leave my email open. I just seen an email from somebody that says, Soldado Astro 20, help, please. That's what I'm supposed to be doing on this show. It's 12:59 p.m. that the email came in. Come in here and ask me about the Soldado Astro 20, because this is the time. You know how it is. It's like you only have so many hours in the week, and so I appreciate this comment, because it's like this is kind of my time to do things like I don't want to say I'm not tech support for Soldano. And I appreciate it. I try as much as I can. If somebody asks me a question about a piece of gear that, I mean, I did one video for the Astro 20. I spent 48 hours with it. So I'm no expert, but I will try and help if I can. Let's look at the fella's question here, and then we'll take a look here. Let's see. An Astro 20 and an Effects Mark 6. I'm able to change the amp channels with the controller, but it's only stepping through certain galaxies, because, of course, on the Soldano, you've got all these different gain staging and stuff like that. For example, 20 PC messages. See, this is my mini questions. Oh, God. How do I get it to switch all the galaxy options on both channels 2 and 3? I'm sure there are additional CC, that's MIDI continuous controller messages, that need to be sent to the head in order to access the other galaxy modes, but none of that is in the manual. Any help would be appreciated. He's very nice. Jared, he said, thanks for all you do. Appreciate you. I don't know, dude. I'm not sure, but I would suggest getting in touch with, if you, there's got to be a boutique amps Soldano customer service. Because the guy that designed that is the same dude, the person that did the MIDI and everything. I think is the same dude that does all the programming MIDI digital stuff over there. So it would be a question for him. He's a very, very, very smart guy. And so I don't know, honestly. I don't have a great answer. I wish I could help more, but find that dude that's responsible for the MIDI that works at Boutique in Los Angeles, California. get his email and send him a thing, and I'm sure he'll tell you. And I think you're probably right. It's probably, to me, if I was going to design that amp, I would make it a program change to go from channel 1, 2, 3, right? Program change 1, 2, 3, for example. And then I would add a CC that would step through the galaxies. So it would be program 1, CC, blah, blah. Program 2, CC, blah, blah. And it would be the same CCs for all three, if that makes sense. That's some MIDI stuff there. We love it. We love it. But I'm not saying that's how it works. I recently got to see Hart live, was blown away with one of the hired hands, Paul Moak. What a great show and what a great guitarist. That's cool. I would love to play, with Hart. That'd be a really fun gig because I love their music and their records, and it's just cool stuff that's, I think, underrated. So yeah. Ian says he's Han Solo and Indiana Jones. It's true. Coolest dude. That's the coolest dude. Harrison Ford, 100%. I really like the G3 version of Vi playing For the Love of God back in the 90s. Are you going to be playing that song? I can't tell you. I don't want to spoil it. It's a mainstay of Steve's set, of course, though, but it's, epic. But yeah, he's, God, man, that guy. He's making me think about that too. He's amazing. He's just amazing. All right. What else have we got here? Does that pedalboard order sound right? Daimois, Ibanez TS9, MXR EQ, Vortex Boost, Boss SD E3, and MXR Gate. I mean, it sounds pretty good, I think. I would put the gate somewhere else. Maybe you could try it after the boost, but pre-delay, because if you put the gate after the delay, the one major mistake you're making here is that it's going to cut off your delay trails, and you don't really want that. So it could either be right at the beginning of the pedal board. Sometimes the gate is there to just gate out pickup noise and kind of, any EMI or whatever that's in the air getting into the pickups. You might also want to gate hiss from pedals like the TS9 and the Vortex Boost, though. So I would say try it either right in front of the board, the very first in line, or right after the Vortex Boost, but not after the delay. Yeah. As a Sir artist, are you allowed to buy and play other Sir artists' guitars? So you mean like, could I pick up a Andy Wood model or something? Sure, yeah, I could order one, and I think they're really cool, actually. I mean, between Ian's got some neat ones. Those new Tellys that Andy's has are really sexy looking guitars. I think the red one and the orange one that are with the kind of the carbon fiber looking pickguards and stuff. They're really nice looking guitar. So they do some great stuff over there, man. Yeah. Uh-oh, that's not good. Morianthi had some guitars stolen. That's not good. Oh, that's a terrible story. I'm sorry to hear that. She's a nice person, I've met her a number of times, and she's very sweet. So that's sad. I do have her contact info, but I'm sure PRS is going to rock her out. She's a diehard PRS endorser, so I can't help her there. I don't have any. I'd be happy to, help her in any way that I could. What's your take on the extremely high prices of gear nowadays? I understand inflation, but it seems that if we don't stop paying for overpriced gear, it will just increase exponentially. Well, this is a touchy subject these days, obviously, right? Because if you think it's expensive now, just wait. Man, I mean, it's all relative. Is it expensive? When we look at something like the VP4, so much power packed into a small processing, unit that would have cost so much. I mean, like when you consider that, rack effects back in the day used to be, the equivalent of, you would pay, a lot for something like an STE 3000 or a lot for something like an H3000. Now you can get something that basically sounds exactly the same for all intents and purposes, all intents and purposes, is that a phrase? And is so much less money. So some things are less, And the amount of power that's packed into something like a quad or an Axe effects, or even a a Tone X, right? Like, the quality of sound that you can get nowadays is pretty incredible for, $3.99 or whatever you're going to pay for a Tone X, or for, um, and even amps, uh, there's some great deals to be had out there. The little baby Marshalls, or even the stuff that Sir's doing at for the money. I think it's fantastic. Be it a Badger or a PT-15, or guitars can be a little, it's a little crazy, but it's, we get into the realm of luxury brand stuff when we start talking about, made to measure, or whatever, the Gibson Murphy Lab stuff and things, where you'll go in and see a new guitar routinely for 10K plus or minus, right? It gets a little like, well, it's collector stuff, and it's Dr. Lawyer stuff a little bit, but that's, I guess, what Epiphone's for, and some of the other, less expensive stuff. But nowadays, I mean, now all bets are off. So, it's not going to be good. I don't really want to talk about this on this show, but the reality of what's happening at the moment, is going to affect gear as well, and it's going to affect everybody in America. And it's just, I understand the side of the argument that says that, well, just buy American stuff, but everybody out there needs to know, like, for instance, when it comes to guitars, you want a guitar that's got a maple neck, that maple's coming from Canada. Oh, buy American. Well, there isn't any. There's no old growth American. Well, there's not an equivalent. So when you don't have an equivalent, and then we're talking about trees, you can't, you have to import it. Just reality. And then when we're talking about electronic components, it doesn't exist. Sure, there's some pots made in America, but they're if a manufacturer has to pay $10 or $14 or $15 per pot that goes in an amplifier, because that's what American ones cost, compared to an Alpha or a CTS or whatever gets used commonly, which is 1/10 that. You know what I mean? So you just can't make them for the same thing. But that ship sailed a long time ago. It's very difficult. We can't. Nobody's willing to work for. And there's labor laws and things that it just doesn't work that way. We don't have the kind of the same structure set up here, and we don't have the supply chains. And then when we start talking about tubes and stuff, like making those components, like, we all know Western Electric's been talking about making for the last 3-4 years. They were like, we're going to do it. We're going to make a 12AX7. It's like, great. And I was all about it. I'd be like, I don't even care. If they're $100 each, I'll buy some, because I'm into it. I want to support that, even if it's boutique nose, whatever, what I'm talking about. If it's cork sniffery, I'll buy them. But you can't, people have a problem paying $1,000 for something. You can't put 3 or 4 12AX7s that, if the cost was $50 each, it would drive the amp to a price that nobody would want to pay. So this is the world that we live in, right? And it's uncertain. So we'll see. It's crazy times, but I'm just telling you now, if you think it's bad now, let's see what happens, over the next little while. We'll see what happens. But the industry people are freaking out, because they know that you feel that way, that things are already expensive. They are well aware that people are, so it's a crazy subject. I really like, I already did that one. I really like the G3 version of I playing for Love of God in the 90s, as well as Saturate. I love Flying in a Blue Dream. Are you playing those? I can't tell you. I don't want to spoil. There would be, set lists are sacred things, but it's going to be great. I'll tell you that. The show is going to be wonderful. Did you refret with larger frets when you got a guitar with vintage size, the Fender Road Worn size in particular? Yeah, I mean, I don't have a Road Worn or anything like that, but I probably would. I've done that on numerous guitars, refretted with a bigger fret. Sometimes though, a guitar just feels great, So, Mr. Douglas there again. Don't want to say your first name wrong. Steve. I'm going to say Stefan. What amp is DeMartini using with the new Percy gig? Well, I know all about that, but I kind of don't want to talk about it yet because I was actually helping him this week, which was a total thrill. And I just hope that it went well because he did it last night. And I texted him, but I haven't heard back yet about I was like, so how'd it go? Because I am interested in if it was a success. But Warren just is a kind of not a creature of habit, but he's really into the things that worked for him, and so he's got a few things that really work well for him, and one of them is the old Marshall, and it's the raw wood uncovered one that I think is like the lay it down amp probably. He's got another one then from the late or mid to late 70s that's similar. They're both with simple mod. And then he's got a Soldano SLO, original couple Soldano SLOs, and he sounds great through. He kind of makes them both work, and they both sound great for his style, I think. So that's kind of where he's coming from, at least still. But yeah, I think they did a show last night, so I'm gonna go look for some YouTube videos and stuff and check it out. I love Warren, man. What a great dude. He's the coolest. I got to spend, when was it, Monday or Tuesday? I went over to his place and we were doing some amp stuff. So it was really fun. I lied. One question. Thanks, Philip. How does your up mindset change from classic rock show to a different role with your new gig? Not that much, to be honest. I mean, I sort of approach everything the same, which is just, I want it to be really, really, really the best I can do. So I approach every gig with trying to really, nail it, parts, tones, the whole 9 yards. That's the honest truth. No matter what it is, I do that. So, yeah. That's my answer. It's the best. I learned that as a young guy. Like, don't, if you're doing a cover gig or if you're doing a stadium, approach it the same, give the people what they came there for, and that pays off in spades in the sense that you're gonna, Van Halen, when they were signed, there was nobody there. It was like a few Warner Brothers guys came down. It was a rainy night at the Starwood, and they put on the best show that they could possibly do. And so that's always what you got to do. I approach everything pretty much the same. Do I work a little harder, like when it's Joe Satriani, Steve Vai? Okay, I really, really, really worked hard because I wasn't gonna, But if you were to, I mean, I take pride in if you were to come see me doing whatever I do, I think my level is about the same, no matter what, no matter what I'm doing. And I think that's the key to a long career. Don't approach things differently. Oh, this is just a cover gig. Who cares? Don't be that person. This is just a stupid gig. No gig is stupid. People are there to watch, and so don't ever approach it like that. That's a hard one to get across sometimes to younger musicians. I find they'll rate things and kind of, it's a mistake. It's a trap. I had to learn it. I mean, I learned it from a friend of mine, Frank Symes, who, I always saw play exactly the same way, whether we were doing a cover gig or whether he was playing with, because at the time when I hooked up with Frank and started playing in a band with him and his pals, he had just gotten the Mick Jagger gig. So he was doing the Mick Jagger gig, the Wandering Spirit album, and he was also Don Henley's musical director, and I was 20, so he was a very powerful influence on me. And I basically just learned everything I could from him and just didn't question it. I just was like, this guy's obviously successful and doing what I dream of doing. I'm going to take everything to heart. And when I saw him give it, there was 5 people in a crowd, because I did shows like that with him when there was almost nobody there, he would play exactly the same. Some other things I learned from Frank: don't ever apologize to an audience. Oh, I'm sorry, we might suck on this song. No, you never do that. You just go out and you go for it. Most people don't know if you make some little mistake anyway or whatever, right? So it's just be the thing that, another guy told me once, people pay money or whatever, bought the ticket or whatever it is, to come see a show. They want to see a show. They want to see something that they can't do. They expect a performance, And so when you start apologizing or phoning it in or all those things, it's poison. It's not what they're there for. They feel it that something's off, when that's going on, and they'll be like, oh, that wasn't very good. That's what they'll walk away from it, even if you don't say anything. But if that's your attitude, it's like, so it's so important to internalize that you're up there doing something, and that was just sort of strengthened when I saw the movie It Might Get Loud. I always bring that movie up, but with Jack White and his kind of take on these things, when he said they want to see a show, like, better give them a show, they're there to see so that's always what I liked about him, about the way that he approaches performance, and it's not about hitting all the right notes and being perfect and all that. It's about going in 110% and giving them, and that was, I was like, yeah. And it's good to have those reminders every 5 or 10 years of like somebody, you know what I mean? That like, these are you've got, opinions, and then you've got convictions about things, and this is one of my convictions, is that you don't phone it in, you don't apologize, you do the work, you prepare, and then you go into every show that way. And if you do that, watch it pay off over years and years and years and decades. That's my best advice I could give anybody as a musician. So yeah. Could you please share your Tone X presets? I will, I promise. Yeah, I will do that ASAP. That's my plan, and to do more with them, actually. So yeah. Steven says, I must not watch your channel. Your hair was much shorter. Yeah, it's still growing, so I just figured let it go. Let's see what happens. Mr. Douglas Skin, that's how the Astro MIDI works. So program 1, 2, 3, and then you send it to CC. Is that what you do? Let's see here. Somebody said that they resent me an email. I am not seeing it. So maybe it went in my junk box, or maybe you're sending it to the wrong person. Not sure. But not sure. Okay, I'm not clicking on that. That's a junk email. Yeah, not sure. But not seeing a new email that came in the last few minutes anyway. Okay, it's about 2, so I'm gonna hang another 5-10 minutes and then split, because I think I've been on for almost 2 hours, so I'm gonna run in a few. But let's see. Oh, this is good. Warren's first gig yesterday looked like Marshall's. Could have just been backline stuff. Sounded really good. That's awesome. Did he look like he was having fun? As long as he looked like he was having fun, then I'll talk more about what he's doing later. As long as he gives me permission. Yeah. Stacks of Marshalls. I saw that. Yeah. It's better to buy older Marshalls or get something like a Friedman Sir these days versus newer Marshall. Both are cool. Old amps are cool. New amps are great. You can get, the reality is the code has been cracked, I think, with the tone of all of those. You can get very, very, very great tones out of a modern, be it a Sir SL68 or a Friedman Plex or whatever. And then a more modern take, something like one of the PT amps or a BE100 or something, you can get great sounds out of those. So it just depends what you want. It's hard to go wrong, to be honest. That's what I think. Super chat I got to grab there. Oh, here's another one from Christopher. You played my hometown venue, the Paramount in Huntington. That's a great place. With the Riddle, that was Five for Fighting. What did you think of the venue and the sound there? That's the band Five for Fighting I played with. Yeah, that's one of John's songs called The Riddle. Great venue. Great neighborhood. There in Long Island. Really fun. It's got a killer backstage, that place too. It's really nice. But yeah, that's a great venue. Every town should have a nice concert venue like that for that size show. I also played there many years ago with Don Henley, which was one of the most fun shows I remember with him, because it was a standing show. Standing shows are always more fun. The crowd's always more, and I remember it being like, yeah, now we're, soft seaters always people are more mellow and they got to stand up, and there's 2 bars on either side. People drink and stand up and have a great time. So that's my memory of the Paramount. Really nice place. Yeah. All right. So Richard said John and Dave's amps are worth the price. I don't think the high-end Fenders and Gibsons always warrant the price. Yeah, the Fender, it's a little more like Fender Custom Shop, the standard stuff. That's not the crazy price stuff. That's like when the guitars come in around $4,000 or whatever. That's kind of what it costs to do like a custom bolt-on neck guitar these days in the U.S. built in California. I'm familiar with that because of the guitars that we do, at SUR. So that's just kind of fair for that in this world, what they cost to do. When it comes to I have a little less, I don't know like about when you start charging $10,000 for things, that's all I'll say about that. Like that, is it really like, is there that, like when I have a beautiful, here, I'll show you this guitar. This is a 2009. Just started playing this a little more. Actually, I'm going to use it on a gig later this month. 2009 R9 Les Paul, 50th anniversary. Obviously, cherry sunburst, nice flame top. So this was one of the first 500 in a run done. 50th anniversary Les Paul, 1959 standard, right? I've had this guitar for so I got it in 2008 or 9, I think. 9, because that's when they came out, obviously. 50th anniversary. So this is number 33, I do believe, of 5. Yeah, that's right. 33 of 500. So this is one of the very first. And I bought this guitar. I got a great discount on it, but I bought it from Guitar Center. They were going for around 50, like $6,000 back then, and I got it for $5,300, and I've had it ever since. It's a really good guitar. It's not my Yaren, but it's a good guitar. I replaced the pickups with Thornbuckers, and it's a good solid Les Paul. It actually stays in tune good, and it's a good gigging Les Paul. I feel like, is it a 59 Les Paul? No, but it is a really, really good guitar. And the price for those if you get one of those and they're $5,000 to $6,000 for an American made glue-in neck, the whole, that feels okay to me. It's a lot of money, but I've had the guitar for 15 years, and that's a long time for it to have a quality tool like that for, so, but when they start to get to $9,000, $10,000, $11,000, $12,000, $13,000, it's like I do start to feel a little like that's just not and it starts to feel like that's not for musicians, that's for collectors. I think that's just my take on it. I don't mind paying a fair amount for a good, Craftsman, American, Gibson's American company, Fender, SUR, it's just when they get to be that, they're really, then it gets a little crazy. So, Ben, Tom, we're far back in the chat here once again, but talking about the 300B, those are the hi-fi tubes. They do make those. That's Western Electric I think they're in South Carolina or something. But they were talking about making 12AX7s, and I have not heard a single thing. And if anybody could do it, it's them, right? They have the expertise to make tubes, which is one of the biggest problems of trying to like, oh yeah, why don't we just make tubes here? That's been tried a million times, right? By Groove Tubes, by a bunch of different, now these folks that actually are in business making tubes, haven't seen anything come out. And that was years ago. It was just right as we're coming out of the pandemic and there were supply chain issues and all this stuff. Western Electric said, we're going to make 12AX7s. I haven't heard a single thing since then, and I'm a guitar amp guy. It's like, I'd love to be a beta tester or, involved in some way, shape or form, but I haven't heard a thing. And that's how difficult it is. A lot of that ship is sailed. I mean, the expertise, the knowledge, the problem is it's such a niche market when we're talking about hi-fi and guitar amp tubes. Used to be that everything needed tubes, radios, and all kinds of stuff. Now it's a much, much, much smaller piece of the pie, the devices that use them. And the amount of expertise what it takes to tool up and make them, plus environmental concerns and stuff like that. It's very difficult to make them, and follow regulation and all that stuff. So it's people would have done it, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they would, if it was possible to do. When Western was like, we're going to do it, I was like, great. And then it's the same old story. I haven't seen a damn thing. I'd love to be proven that, oh no, you're wrong, they're going to do it next week, it's going to be great. And like I say, even if they were $100 a tube, I would still be supportive of it. But I'd buy some right away. I'd buy, at least a few, and try them out, but oh my God. All right. Just picked up a Fender 68 Pro, says Wayne. Amazing clean tone. Good amp as a pedal platform. Yeah, those are great. Kind of 40 watts, right? 2 6L6s, I think. Nice amp. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. We followed a gospel group one time, and our singer started the show with, if you love them, then you're going to hate us, and then hit the first Sabbath chord. Well, that's just funny. That's not an apology. That's just laying it on the line. But yeah, it's not rock and roll to apologize. Agreed. Yeah. What's this? A Kansas show? Like literally the band Kansas? I went to a Kansas show once in Hutchinson, Kansas. You'd think there'd be more people there. There was only 4 people. They played an entire hour, and then we helped them load out. That's amazing. That's awesome, Earl. Good story. Yeah, you got to go for it. Jack White nailed it on a Mikey Loud. We were there for a show. I don't care about perfection as much as I care about delivery. Yeah, do your best and lay into it. Just go into it. When are you going to demo Dave's new Arredondo amp? Oh, I'd love to. I mean, that'll happen for sure. Got to do it. I'm a fan. So what am I listening to these days? Lots of different stuff. I brought them up last week, but my favorite band as of late is Mannequin Pussy. They're so good. They're like super 90s, but it's all heart and spirit and punk rock meets, I just love it. But I listen to a lot of different stuff. Let's see. What else we got here? Earl says, see everybody tonight at Ben Sunday Night Hang. Have a good one, you guys there, for sure. I'm gonna get off of here in just a second. I think I've hit all the super chats. Oh no, there's one more. The more it acts is like the OG version, the more it costs, regardless of how much it costs to make. It's always been the deal. Yeah, and I guess that's okay. It's just like 5K pounds is the cap. I think I can't fathom anything higher. Yeah, the only time I've paid more for guitars is when they're vintage, and then that there's sort of money in the bank. And when you have it, like when it's not like, ooh, this is going to make me poor. If it's like you have it and you can kind of move money around, it's kind of fun to put it in guitars. I was talking about this with James Cole the other day because he loves buying vintage stuff now and moving it around. There's an excitement to it, and it's kind of fun. But he was talking about paying, like a lot for a guitar in the tens of thousands of whatever it was. But then he said, and he said how some people were like, how can you do that? Like, how do you have that much, And he's like, well, then I sold it like 6 months later for like, he doubled his money or more on it, And I was like, well, there you go. That's kind of the, once you get in that game, it's a little like real estate. Once you get it, it's tough to get in. And then once you get in, then I guess you can start moving and shaking, moving things around. As long as things don't go south, then you're in good shape. So whatever happened to groove tubes? Well, Aspen passed away. Lauren could tell you the real story. He's here in the chat. He could tell you more about, the kind of path of groove tubes and stuff like that, because he worked with them. But I believe they were sold to Fender eventually, and they're still groove tubes. It's I'm not sure. I don't have a perspective actually, and maybe it would be if somebody else does, I'd love to know like the name was sold to Fender, and then Fender now uses groove tubes. I think for every Fender amp you see, I think it comes with the groove tubes in it now. What's labeled as groove tubes. Groove tubes was really a kind of a distributor and rebrander for the most part. They did do some tube, I believe, design and stuff where they would work with various like JJ or various companies to make tubes that were exclusive to them, but they were never made by Groove Tubes per se. Although they tried to do that, with a few different. There was a 6CA7 and a 6L6. I think they were really trying hard to do that. And Lauren's got the true story, but it never really got off the ground, I don't think. I do remember them doing an EL34M, for instance, which was like supposed to be a Mullard recreation. It was a Chinese-made tube, I do believe, dual getter. It's the only place you could get them. I mean, they had I remember this in 2003 or 4 or whatever it was when they came out, a true dual getter EL34 that looked like an old Mullard XF2. I don't know how close they actually were. I had some in my top hat Amplexador, I remember, for a while. But anyways, that's that story. So there's Peter with a super chat. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. So sorry I missed a lot of the show videos this week. So I have a video. I can't tell you what it's for, but it's for a preamp pedal that's really cool. And I'm just finishing it up. It's almost done. Just finishing. And I got to edit for another hour or so, and it'll be ready to go. That'll be on the 8th. So Tuesday the 8th. That'll come out day after tomorrow. And then I'll be on to some other pedal videos. I've got a Crazy Tube Circuits pedal that I'm doing. The Load Box new one, Reload 2 from 2 Notes. There it is. I do a video for this guy. So this is a load box with a brand new load that was designed in conjunction with Celestion for its response curve. Also has a stereo reamp power amp in it and stereo effects loop. So you could take something like a Plexi, run it into this, go out into some stereo effects, come back and have, stereo split delay or whatever you want, reamp through this at any volume. Kind of cool, right? And it's also got DI outs on it that you can run out to your recording interface and use with impulse responses. They've kind of designed it to be used with their Genome plugin, which I've just got into this week. Seems really cool. A little streamlined over wall of sound. I like it. A little sexier interface. The way that they incorporate effects and things is nice, and the effects sound good. It's got some built-in, delays, modulation, stuff like that. It's cool. It's something you can use as an IR host and speaker cab sim, and also adding effects. But you can also actually do amp modeling. Like, it's got amp models in it, so you can use it as a standalone plug-in with modeling built in too. And the models I haven't tried yet, but I think that the modeling, if it's similar to what's in the Opus unit, it's going to be quite good. Yeah. So there's that. Yeah. Okay, Jim, I finally got Joseph, finally got your email with your rig. Here's your pedal board. You've got an EP booster, Phase 90, electric mistress, a bass fuzz. That's unique. An old DS1 RC booster, an EQ with a little bit of low mid bump going on. You've got a polytune there, a carbon copy, a Boss digital delay, the Afterneath from Earthquaker. That's cool. A trio pedal, so you can do some jamming with drums. That's running into a compressor, I assume, so you can squish the output and it doesn't blow up your speakers. Where's that? An SP booster? No, that's a compressor. And a little Vox amp, and looks like a cool setup you've got there, my friend. Good times. So yeah, Peter. Sorry, my ADHD has directed me away from your super chat, but now I'm back. So that is what you're going to see this week. I mean, the Chase Bliss. Nobody brought it up, but there's a Boogie 2C Plus sitting right there. I thought one of you guys had mentioned it during the chat. What's that? That's full Metallica. Yeah, so there's going to be a video coming for something from them pretty soon. And that's about it. All right, everybody. I'm gonna split. And thanks, Peter, for the super chat. Thanks to you all. Thanks for being here. Everybody be nice to one another. Have a fantastic week. Do the best you can out there. That's all we can ask. And last to the little, so Groove Tubes are just basically rebranded tubes. Yeah, they would buy and test and match and rebrand. So from, back in the day when you could still get American tubes, that was what was going on. They would buy and test and make sure everything was good, that they tested strong and stuff. And so that when they'd buy from, it's not like, you buy tubes from direct from manufacturers or from distributors overseas that sell them and stuff. And then you get them and like a lot of rejection, generally speaking. So you want to test them, make sure that they're quiet, not microphonic, make sure that they don't blow up, that they last and stuff. And you test them, put them through the paces a little bit. And then when they're good, you give them a rating, put them in a box, and then you can resell them as the Groove Tubes 12AX7R2 or whatever, and also testing power tubes, matching power tubes is a big one. So that when you buy a quartet, you don't have one that's at, 21 milliamps and another one's at 39. They were kind of the originators of, I think, of being able to buy like a matched quartet of power tubes, that kind of thing. Yeah. So, but they did attempt to do some manufacturing. That was their desire. I think it was Aspen's, would have loved to, but it's just a very, 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 very difficult thing to do for any kind of price that makes sense. And the expertise and the ship has sailed a little bit when it comes to, it's old technology. And so it's like, we're talking about people that if there's experts out there or people that know about tube production, they're not Americans, unfortunately. So it's like the people, when, you take a thing and then you don't do it for a long time, 50 years or 40 years, when did the last tube factories close in America, right? So then everything was made overseas. So now, even if there is experts from back then, they're very, very old. Probably some younger folks, though, that know what's going on, right? That work at JJ or work at Shiguang, because they've grown up in the business or something like that, or at least been hired years ago and they had to learn about it and how vacuum tubes, if you can't just, it's, something that, I'm off on a tangent again, so I better go. But anyway, we will see. There's another super chat right there. I'm just going to say, Carrie Kruger, thank you for that super chat. Appreciate it. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. Peace all. Rock on. I agree. Everybody have a terrific week. I'll be back here next week. See you same time, same place. Hopefully I won't be late, but if I am, don't be mad at me, please. I'm a people pleaser. Don't want to be disappointing anyone. Have a great week. See ya.